Hello. A few years ago, I was talking to a bootmaker who made riding boots, and one of the very few who actually makes boots in this country. Nearly all the shoemaking is done in the Far East now. Even many so-called Italian shoes, which have high prestige, they may be made to Italian specifications, but they're actually manufactured in China. So this bootmaker told me that if Britain ever wanted to go to war with China, that would be impossible because the Chinese make all the army boots. That was then, maybe 10 years ago, I suppose. But it isn't boots on the ground anymore so much now, is it? The soldier in full kit is supposed to be on his way out. Oh no, it's all cyber warfare now. Well, I have news for you. The Chinese have that covered too. Now we discover that if we ever wanted to go to war with China, we'd be unable to do so because they have control over our communications. Someone leaked this stuff to the British press, and Theresa May is incandescent with rage about it. Apparently, it's just not on to tell the British people that their phones can be listened to by any Ginseng Li Ji in some listening station in Beijing. So, she's kicked off an investigation. I saw this in the Daily Telegraph on Saturday. Cabinet ministers will be hauled before a leak inquiry this weekend, that's as I'm making this video, after Theresa May's hunt for the source of information on the Huawei affair gathered pace yesterday. That would have been Friday, I suppose. Gavin Barwell, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, warned that if a leaker was discovered, they would be sacked, regardless of their rank. He chaired a meeting of ministerial aides in Downing Street and told them that anyone found to be responsible for the leak will not be a member of the government for much longer. The former stage of the investigation began yesterday as ministers and their staff were issued with questionnaires that demanded to know their whereabouts in the hours following the National Security Council meeting on Tuesday night, at which Mrs May approved the Chinese firm's involvement in Britain's future 5G mobile network. Ministers and aides were also asked to provide details of all mobile phones in their possession and whether they spoke to the Daily Telegraph, that's this paper, before this newspaper broke the Huawei story on Wednesday. Ministers including Philip Hammond, Jeremy Hunt and Sajid Javid will be expected to hand over their mobile phones as part of the investigation being conducted by Sir Mark Sedwill, the Cabinet Secretary. Now, every Cabinet Minister is going to have to give over his or her phone for inspection and open up email records and fill out questionnaires, giving information on their whereabouts to determine who told the press that the Chinese phone company Huawei is being awarded the job of setting up 5G in this country, and knowing the dangers of a Chinese company having its hands on all the levers of communication in this country. I don't know why these guys, Sir Mark Sedwill, is making such an effort to look through those ministers' records. Why don't they just ask Huawei? They obviously know anyway. The British government is being heavily leaned on by the Americans, who don't want Huawei anywhere near the British communication systems. Can you imagine? During a cabinet meeting, which was held in secret, Theresa May decided to give a communications network supervision or construction to a Chinese company. and hoping nobody would notice. It just beggars belief. The United States did notice. They have several listening stations here in Britain. Britain is an extremely good strategic position for America. And they've got one on Menwith Hill. I'll put a photo up here of one of their big golf ball things. It's got about 1,200 staff. Some are British, some are American, some are actually from the NSA. I mean, it's really serious stuff. And one of its recent projects, apparently, according to what I've discovered in my trawl through the internet, is a project called Project Phoenix, which is a hugely high-tech system. I've no idea what it really does, but I can tell you it listens. It listens so well that apparently in 2009 it was listening in on the encrypted telephone calls of the Russian president at that time, Medvedev. I'll bet it does more than that now. It's 11 years later and things only get more intrusive, don't they? And Huawei could be listening in on these listeners, so to speak, or not to speak. You know, I reckon we'll all be reduced to communicating by writing stuff on blackboards to each other in the end. Mind you, it's not just Britain, they're all doing it. In 2014, it turned out that the Australian government was checking in on ordinary Australians' browsing histories just because, and no warrant at all to do so. Well, I mean, that was effective, wasn't it? Look how they managed to identify, track down and prevent the atrocity of that Australian who went to shoot up a New Zealand mosque after watching radical websites of various sorts, which some of them must have been looking at. Yeah, that really worked well. That's it. I don't understand what Theresa May is doing, because it looks like she is desperately trying to give Britain away. She's trying to give Britain to the European Union. Now she's trying to give Britain to the Chinese, or at least Britain's defence capability to the Chinese. It's like she's just desperate. Do you know what it reminds me of? You know when you've got a house full of stuff and she's a housewife as well as a prime minister. Maybe she's just decided, you know, I'm fed up with this. I'm going to give everything to the charity shop. Look, you know something, Mrs. May, you can give away an old dress you haven't used for a while, but you don't give away your telephone when you need to use it. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, and if you wish to donate, click the subscribe star link where you can make a one-off payment or set up a regular contribution, or I have a PayPal account at grannyopteryx@gmail.com. Till next time.